with that out of the way, let's get stuck into our first map. This is going to be the opener, Speed, a map we've been very familiar with through the All-Star Championship, and a map where we can actually perform. And this is going to be a very, very important pick to take advantage of, because Sinners has been, according to at least statistician Lava TM, is one of the maps where Sinners is looking to be the most consistent, even though they're not looking that fast. Other players tend to go a lot faster on this map, especially on the side of G1. BDS could also pull something amazing, but it's a bit more hit and miss for the other teams as well.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw that with G1, right? Where we saw that G1 was often more times a little bit more inconsistent, despite the fact that Gwen pulling insane times in those first early rounds, then started to make mistake after mistake and relied heavily on Binks in order to be that closer that we constantly talked about in that previous round. So let's see if BDS plays similar or plays different.
All right, here we go then. Round number 1. The match is underway, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to support Kappa and Tween as hard as you can, because they are going to need as much of your energy as possible. So far through the start, going through the loop, it will be Tween, Kappa, Aurel, and Afi in that order. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Heading into the first sector through that first high-speed section coming up now. Now, who's going to be checking it out? Who's going to be carrying the most speed? Afi managing to carry supreme speed, but he will be barely grazing the wall at the edge of the chicane. Acceleration penalty kicking in for the Swiss man, and it will be dropped back down to last place. Half a second down compared to the leading trio of Tween, Kappa, Aurel. Kappa making the move on Aurel just before the end of the dirt part, landing supremely close to the edge right there from Tween, but it is nice and clean. Aurel being shuffled back down along with his teammate Afi to 3rd and 4th, and a clear rift between 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And yeah, top to bottom 2, although we see Tween being a bit slow in the snaking section, so he will be caught back up with Aurel. Coming up to the identity now. Aurel versus Tween for 2nd position. Kappa in the lead. Aurel looking very, very slow. Afi trying to go super fast. He's not going to be able to reel in Kappa fast enough. It will be the victory for Sinners with a 104.944 courtesy of Kappa. Sinners draw first blood, take the early lead. Tween not feeling all that confident in the identity, nor did Aurel. Afi managing to pull something pretty astounding in terms of the tight line through the slalom, thus allowing BDS to not be completely obliterated from round 1.
I think on the side of Tween, it was so much not confidence after having that minor error in the early snaking section before the identity, and that's kind of what caused this domino effect in that first round. But now we see Tween taking an early lead here in the speed section here. Is he going to be able to maintain that lead, though, as Afi is looking to take over? Kappa making a mild mistake there as he allows... Oh, there goes Afi. He's already behind pretty heavily.
That was a very slow
right there. So Kappa, Tween... Yeah, Kappa and Tween and Aurel at the moment here fighting against each other. Tween in the lead at the moment, Aurel sitting in 2nd, Kappa not too far behind, so it is a potential victory or ace here. Aurel getting a little bit of airtime though on that sausage section, so Kappa is able to potentially take in here. Aurel going wider here after that snaking section. Here comes the identity here. Tween taking a little bit more precautiously. Aurel is going to be able to overtake here at the end, unfortunately, and that is going to be a draw for Team BDS, preventing another victory, as Aurel just has more confidence in that identity.
Yeah, Aurel managing to get a pretty solid line, just like Afi did, with a 104.871, which are nothing to scoff at in terms of times. Even though compared to the record, which is completely insane, by the way, of a 103.785, I think it was by Bren, is rather tame. It is still very, very fast, and that identity is a real butt clencher, that one on speed, even for teams that are looking to be a little bit more consistent through the entire map, as Sinners is. As we're moving on to round number 3, through the high-speed section we go. Afi trying to carry so much speed, extending as much of the track as he can, and it will be the pinball machine for Aurel. Tween barely grazing the edge of the wall for the exit of that chicane as well. He will not lose too much compared to Aurel. He's still sitting in 3rd place, and Kappa needs to chase down Afi, but Afi's got a pretty solid buffer to manage that. He's about 4/10 up on Kappa just before the landing on the plastic. Now moving on to the bubble section, and then the exit where you do get a little bit of airtime. Oh, very, very slow. I say very slow. It was a little bit slower for Afi. Not that much that he ended up losing the lead. But yeah, that exit with a little bit of airtime, it's not that uncommon. Oh, Afi going very wide, allowing Kappa to slide through into the lead. Tween a bit too far down to be taking advantage of that. Kappa hitting the wall, allowing Afi to move up back into 1st place. Tween moving up to 2nd, 3rd place for Kappa. That should be enough for 3rd. Yeah, so it will be another draw with another 0.8. So yeah, it could still be like midpoint, like mid 104s are definitely reachable there, if not for any mistakes that are being driven there.
Yeah, and we know Sinners, they do take a little bit of while to warm up. We saw that in the first match, the first map against G1 yesterday, where they started coming alive towards the end of that very first map. So hopefully Sinners is going to be able to come alive a little bit more here in these next coming rounds, as we are in now round 4 here. Afi leading at the moment here. Arl being the back marker again for this moment in time in the speed section. He has been making multiple mistakes in the speed section. Hasn't made a mistake this time though, unless he gets this not clean here, but he gets it just fine here. And so everybody is in after the speed section. Everybody has survived thus far. Kappa is going to be the one who's slightly behind, only 0.1 behind though, as Tween and Afi fight for the top spots. Arl in the mix as well, so it's likely going to go down to the end here and who has more confidence in the identity. And we know so far that for the side of Sinners, they haven't been so clean on the identity, and it's going to be really right down here. BDS sitting in a high position. Arl makes it a little bit too wide, so he's going to be overtaken. Afi, though, gets it cleanly. Is Tween going to be able to finish in third, though? No, he is not, and that is going to be a victory, tying it up 5-5.
Yeah, and now times are talking a little bit more lively here. Now driving into the 0.6s. We're starting to get into the mid 104 range that I was talking about a round ago, and yeah, this is very much the time where we need to get on the ball. And yeah, as we explained, it is a little bit of a diesel warm-up round maybe for Sinners. They do take a couple rounds, maybe 3 or 4, to get themselves back in the groove of things, and then they're starting to truly come alive. Let's hope that they're able to come alive right there on this very first map on round number 5, going with the perspective of Aurel. Afi trying to carry so much more speed than the rest. Tween forced to swerve and release quite heavily in order to make it through the chicane without grazing the wall. Aurel, in the meantime, through the drop down, manages to get a bit more speed, maybe even more speed than his teammate, to move back up into the lead of the race from 3rd position. Kappa continuing to play a little bit of the chaser role right here, moving up into the lead at the end of the plastic jump. Moving on to the bubble road section, Kappa trying to go a little bit more aggro. Tween a little bit slow coming up from that particular 90-degree left-hander, so he will be 4/10ths down through the snaking section. Kappa and Aurel battling it out against each other. Through the identity we go. Kappa looking a lot as confident as Aurel, able to make it through, but he's been forced to release quite heavily. Afi moving through. Is he going to be able to overtake Kappa? The answer is a no. With a 0.718, Kappa still holds onto the lead by 63 thousandths of a second, 6-6, as we head into round number 6.
It's getting a little close here, 6-6. We have at least 2 rounds here before we decide who wins this map here. And so far, Kappa and Tween, they have really good moments, and then they just kind of make these minor mistakes that are costing them 0.2 or 0.3, and that's what's making the massive difference here in these last couple rounds here, especially the last 2 rounds, as we now get into the 6th round here. And Tween and Kappa doing really well to keep up with Afi. Afi has to slow down really heavily. Tween finally getting that confidence in that speed section there. Arl sitting 0.4 almost behind, so he made a minor error in that release area. So now Tween and Kappa sitting in a nice position at the moment here. Looking at from Afi's perspective though, is going to be overtaking potentially Kappa here. It's going to be neck and neck between those two. Oh no, he actually makes a mistake on the sausage. So Tween and Kappa sitting prime here, but Afi going really heavy into that snaking section, trying to gain back any time he can here. And this is going to be another opportunity for him. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not. And we have the opportunity to get an ace here. Is it going to be the ace? It is going to be the ace. And that is going to put us in the prime position to get a map 1 win here.
Although I didn't see it on the camera, but Aurel did come pretty close to actually make it just a victory for us. So yeah,
yes,
6-9, like nicest score to begin with on map 1, and it's an even nicer position there for Sinners, who just need basically the point for 2nd place to get the point on the board, and that first map on the board, that first pick, very much what we needed to start getting a bit of momentum going our way after having rounds being traded left and right between the 2 teams. Now we just need basically someone in 2nd place, as I stated, and that is it. We definitely get our first map. Now through the high-speed section here on round number 7. Moving through, Afi trying to carry a bit more speed than the rest. Tween forced to swerve a little bit all over the shot and releasing a tiny bit more. This is going to allow Afi and Aurel to move into 1st and 2nd temporarily here, just before the entry to the dirt. Tween getting back amongst the top group. This is so close. 1/10 between 1st and last. Kappa going for the beeline over the snowy hill onto the rest of the plastic, managed to make it through, but he's still a little bit further down, about a 10th slower. Afi going full send at the apex of that left-hander. Now it's down to Tween to make it into 2nd place. Maybe Kappa could try to dislodge Aurel as well to make it a little bit safer. Through the identity we go. I don't know if the approach from Tween was really safe. Aurel trying to dislodge Tween. And it's going to be Afi making the mistake, though, hitting the pole on the inside. Aurel might win individually, but it will not matter. Kappa in third as well. Makes it that Sinners take the win 10-7, and thus we take the lead in this best-of-7 series 1-0.
1-0 is a good result, especially for the map pick of Sinners. Would have been kind of a little scary if they weren't able to get a win off their first pick. But now we go to VORTEX, which unfortunately, I think on the side of Sinners, they have played this map a lot, but unfortunately for them, I do feel like they have not had the greatest success on this map against other teams,
well,
as this is a very favorite map for most teams.
Yeah, actually, just a quick stat point. Sinners have not yet won on this map after 4 occurrences. They've come close versus Big, it must be said, but they haven't managed to crack the nut that is VORTEX. On the BDS side, though, they've won it 4 out of 5 times that these guys have played. 80% win rate. And in terms of averages, we're looking at a pretty solid average, actually, for Sinners with a .396, 107.396, it must be said, versus 107.131 for BDS. In terms of average finishes, though, they're looking a lot spicier on the side of BDS with a 1.97 average finish for Afi, 2.68 for Aurel, as Kappa had a little bit of trouble going through that pipe, whereas for Kappa, as we said, 3.15 and a 2.51, I think it was, in terms of average finishing position for Tween. So it is going to take an almighty send and a mighty performance here on this map to pull something together. And nobody going for the ice slide again. Again, as I see, it seems very few teams go for that particular approach as we're moving through the bobsleigh. And Tween continuing to hold his own versus Afi, who only gets the advantage right now for a very brief split second as he slides out of the corner. Kappa is not in a position to help Marek. He needs basically to have to rely on Tween to potentially ensure a draw that it is currently going to be heading our way if we manage to make it through the identity clean. Aurel is 8/10 down, so this is not exactly the first round that BDS were probably expecting as we're moving through that pipe. Now onto the last moving block, we make it through nice and clean. Aurel is too far back to pose any threat whatsoever, and it will be the individual win for Tween with a 105.241. For context, 0.421, sorry. And for context, we are on a 0.212 for the actual track record, courtesy of Brent from the Carmine Corp.
So relatively fast time from Tween, and honestly, great job by him. Unfortunately, if Kappa was just a little bit more cleaner, even after he made his initial mistake, he just continued to allow that to affect him, and he actually could have gained back at least 3rd place, if not better. As we see a moment there from Aurel and Tween kind of making it a little crazy there at that quarter pipe jump. But everybody is still within striking distance of each other. Kappa is going to take a minor lead here as a makeup attempt in order to prevent what would happen from last round here. Kappa's still in the lead at the moment here.
Well, Aurel slow all over the shot.
Yeah, Aurel, excuse me. Aurel is sitting in second in a Sinner sandwich at the moment here. Afi has fallen back pretty heavily to a 0.5, still within striking distance. So if one was to make a mistake here, Aurel now taking the minor lead over Tween. Kappa sitting in 3rd place here.
Much more speed for Tween.
Tween has more speed coming into the pipe. Is he going to make it cleanly?
Whoa,
yes,
Kappa.
Aurel is going to stay in second. Kappa getting a small slowdown, but it's not going to be enough for Afi to take over, and that is going to be the victory for Sinners, putting them up 3-2.
So yes, solid showing from Tween once again, even though we were running a fair bit slower compared to what we actually saw in the first round of 0.750 being driven by Marek, but this time Kappa managing to hold his own and have a pretty clean and trouble-free round so far compared to Afi, who has had quite a severe slowdown just before the bobsleigh part of the reactor boost section. As we're moving on to the transfer, everybody makes it through nice and clean. Tween, Afi, Aurel, Kappa, the end of sector number 1, and yeah. We see everybody splitting together. Afi going for the more conventional line, so goes Aurel, whilst Tween and Kappa go for the full outside line in the dirt, the Carlberg dirt line, as you like to call it every so often, as we're moving through the bobsleigh. This time it is going to be Team BDS in with a bit of an advantage. Now, in terms of speed, though, Tween trying to send it all the way through. Doesn't work out this time, thanks to Afi for his sliding out. It will be promoting Tween and Kappa up to 2nd and 3rd position. Kappa continuing to trail Marek right now by about a 1/10 of a second. They just need to secure 2nd and 3rd to at least enforce a draw and keep that 1-point lead for themselves. Afi is way too far down to pose any threat once again. 1 second down. Aurel in the meantime leading by half a second. It's going to take a mighty mistake from Aurel to enable us to catch up, but it will not happen. The Frenchman will take the individual win for the first time on this map here for BDS, who continue to be led by 1 point though.
Yeah, Sinners maintaining their lead thanks to Afi making that mistake, putting him in 4th place. Now Sinners still maintaining their lead, as you said, 4-3 at the moment here. Now getting into the 4th round, and Tween getting a nice little start at the beginning there into the pipe. So now we see a nice minor advantage for Sinners, but it really is kind of down to this quarter pipe, which they get cleanly as well. So now they have a nice little lead over the duo of BDS, a 0.2 lead at the moment here as they go for the Carlberg Dirt Term, and you see how it benefits them as they have more exit speed getting into this jump, maintaining their speed over into the grass berm area, and now they haven't maintained that nice lead. Afi has fallen back ever so slightly to a
Aurel looking close though.
Aurel has gained some time back on Kappa, but Tween is able to maintain the lead over everyone else thus far. And now Afi is also fighting for that 3rd position as Kappa and Aurel are fighting now side by side. Tween leading at the moment here as we get to the identity. Tween leading
Aurel
at
going
the moment.
so wide.
But Kappa seems to have a little bit more speed on the exit here. Is it going to be enough, though? It's going to go down to the line here, but it's going to be Aurel.
Not quite.
Yeah. Aurel's going to inch just ever so slightly, a 0.012 ahead of Kappa. But Sinners gets a victory.
That's probably like a 1K or 2K difference. Like, that's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. It's another victory for Sinners, enabling us to widen the gap. Could have been an ace, but Aurel, I mean, kudos to Aurel. He just kept it and kept his foot pinned to that throttle pedal as hard as he could, and yeah, managed to at least salvage a point from BDS. Not completely getting their asses handed to them so far on their own map pick, but it's looking a little bit more dangerous since now Sinners with a 2-point lead. We are getting closer and closer to map point here for Kappa and Tween, both getting the reactor boost just fine. Everybody now getting regrouped as we're moving on to the bobsleigh. Can Aurel try to recoup a little bit of speed? He's managing to slot himself in between Tween and Kappa for 2nd position and maybe even take the lead. That is a nice direct late apex there through the checkpoint from Aurel. Tween is still right there with him though. Kappa being falling a little bit back in 3rd position. Afi is also right there with him. You can see his ghost creep up at the bottom of the screen from Kappa's perspective. Aurel going ahead of Tween only temporarily though, and going very wide. A bit of a low exit speed from that particular corner will enable Kappa to move up into 2nd place. Oh, watch out there, Marek. Do not do that to us. Our heart rate cannot really take it this early in the day as we do take the ace here on BDS's map pick with the 0.4 being driven once again by Tween. Solid times and high 0.6, close to 0.7 for Kappa. 9-4 for Sinners, who are on their 2nd map point of the series.
A great result, but kind of dicey getting into the finish there, especially on that 3rd rotator on that pipe. It was getting a little dicey, but they were able to get it back together and finish with the ace. And now we're sitting in a prime position, also sitting up 2-0, which is something I also think we haven't done so far in this season yet.
Yeah.
So a nice start so far for Sinners.
We've never been able to take a 2-map lead so far at any point during the season.
Correct.
Or at any point during the Trackmania World Tour era at all.
But, well, actually, did we not get a 2-0 over Solari? Unless I'm misremembering
no,
that.
I think you might be misremembering it, but...
Well, at stage 1, I remember us having a 2-0 lead, or at least a 2-point lead over Solari, and then we threw it. But anyways, let's focus back
in the meantime,
on
Aurel slid out at the exit of the bobsleigh part, so Afi's left on his own, but it will not matter for the individual result, because as long as we have Tween or Kappa in 2nd or 3rd position, that's it. And actually, Kappa trying to go for the move for the lead, but he's going to be running out of road just beforehand. 0.743 versus a 0.768. For Kappa, it is a 10-5 score for Sinners on BDS's map pick, remember? And so we lead with a 2-map advantage going into our 2nd map pick from Sinners, that being Control.
So I do have fact-checked, and it was a 2-0 lead for Sinners over Solari in stage 1.
So I was misremembering things. Sorry about that.
So yes, so this is the only other time this has happened, and unfortunately what happened in that game is we got 4-0 swept.
We got swept. we got fucking stomped.
But I think this is a completely different situation, and a great 3rd map to go into is Control, a map that Sinners has shown that they are really successful on. So I do think it's not going to be the situation that happened with Solari. Crossing my fingers for that one.
Yeah, we're crossing our fingers.
Yeah, as we start into round one, let's see what happens here with Kappa leading at the moment. Tween making an early mistake here is going to be pretty much out of contention, a full second, if not 2 seconds behind the rest of the pack. 2 seconds, like I said. Arl and Akvi right behind Kappa. Kappa's going to maintain the lead for now. Kappa does have some trouble on that jump, and you see it right there as he allows Akvi to overtake him here. Arl seems to have struggles on that jump too, as he falls back even further than Kappa. Now Afi leading 0.2 over Kappa, but we go into one of the first identity jumps, as you would call it, and everybody seems to relatively get it cleanly there. Afi still leading though. However, as we get into somewhat of a more control section, as the map name, as you have to control your speed and your turning radius there, and everybody manages to do that fine as well. Afi still leading with the nice lead.
He's going so low, though.
He went so low and so risky, which is not necessarily needed, but I respect it regardless. And Kappa is going to make a mistake and allow BDS to get the ace, unfortunately, in the first round.
Yeah, I think we should mention the time. He went on a very, very stonking time. I was thinking when he goes that low, he's just trying to push for maybe a new record. Not quite a new record. It's a 0.4. It's a 110.4 flat. So it is about 2/10 away from the current record being held by Panda still, a 110.205, which, as we said late yesterday, is the only record to not be held by a Trackmania Grand League player, and the only record to be held by a Trackmania Challenger League player. I was looking a little bit at the stats for this map in terms of win rate. We're a little bit better set compared to BDS, but yeah, we do need to get our act together pretty quickly. And so far, Tween manages to right the wrongs of the start from round number 1, and with Tween and Kappa actually getting it pretty clean over the bubble. Afi having a little bit too much airtime, allowing himself, well, basically sending himself down to P4 and allowing Aurel to move up into 3rd. He's going to be the only BDS member to be remaining in contention. Solid line there from the Frenchman, though, going toe-to-toe with Tween through the bobsleigh, but we do know Tween has a pretty solid bobsleigh section and pretty solid exit as well. Aurel looking very slow, going into the double right-hander following that, allowing Kappa to move up into 2nd place, albeit very, very close proximity between these two, going through the no-break section where you have to tap-tap-tap-a-roo on the throttle and manage your steering angle as well, and it's still very much a locked battle between Aurel and Kappa for 2nd and 3rd place respectively. Tween about a 2/10 lead over Aurel. Aurel looking a bit slower, well, visually speaking, but it's a bit of a optical illusion. Afi getting closer to Kappa, though, to try and challenge for 3rd place. It will not happen, and with a 0.493, it will be Tween winning, Kappa in 3rd. We do take the victory, and we do bridge the gap a teensy tiny bit to 2 points.
Yeah, it's not over until, as we say in English, the fat lady sings. As we have a 2-point deficit here for Sinners, but like you said, it's not over yet, and there's definitely plenty of time and plenty of rounds to be able to claw back. But we don't want to take that for granted. The opportunity has been presented to us to take some points back, and Tween is going to try to take advantage of that with his slight lead that he just now lost, as I was talking about him, as Afi now takes the lead over the rest of the pack. Kappa sitting in 2nd with Arl on his heels for now, as we get into some of the more transitional elements and the first jump here, which can make or break some runs if you don't get the landing properly and the cancellation of the
Kappa so clean.
Kappa has a very clean run on that section there, is able to take over for first spot. Tween not too far behind, only 0.25 behind the rest of the pack. Wide. And we see Afi slowing down as Kappa still maintains his lead for now, but here comes the identity. Kappa slowing down way so heavily there, but is managing his first place
up to 3rd
lead for now. And Tween going super low too. Is it going to be enough to overtake Afi? It's going to be close, but it's not. It's just going to bridge the gap just closer, ever so slightly, to a 5-4 score.
Yeah, indeed, we're down to a single point, and yeah, Tween managing to make a pretty solid identity as well to overtake Aurel for 3rd. Aurel, in his desperation, trying to catch back up to Marek, unfortunately completely misjudged the alignment for the 2nd jump and was forced to respawn all the way back. So, yeah, that was pretty costly for the Frenchman, but basically a way to ensure the victory for us, and that we are able to get the advantage from BDS reined into just a solitary point, allowing the blue team to continue to lead. Unfortunately for Tween, going a little bit too tight at the exit of the bubble, so he will be grazing the inside wall. But in the meantime, the top 3 group still regroup within about 0.5 of a second. Afi, Aurel, and Kappa. Nothing to separate these 3, despite maybe Aurel going a little bit wider at the entry to the platform before the bobsleigh part, so it's going to be a straight fight between Afi and Kappa. Afi having the better exit from the bobsleigh and the much better double right-hander afterwards, So the Swiss will be taking the lead away from Kappa by about a quarter of a second. He tries to reel that gap back in as Aurel is now falling between, maybe within the clutches of Tween. Yeah, Tween is still there, trying to make a mistake, trying to make a move happen. Afi going very low, trying to go for broke, trying to keep that first place. Kappa trying to reel him back in, about 2/10 down. It's not going to be enough, I don't think. Or maybe is it? Is it? Not quite. He's going to be conceding that first place, and Tweed managed to get within 32 thousandths of a second, but it wasn't enough for Tween to dislodge Aurel, and so BDS continue to lead, widen the gap to 7-5, and they are now on their first map point of the series, which, when you compare to how BDS have been performing in the past, is definitely a bit of a change of pace.
Yeah, and you see BDS being relatively, BDS being relatively consistent here on this map here, with having not many mistakes as Sinners has had. And Sinners' mistakes have been relatively confined to the early stages of the map, and then the rest are relatively clean. So if they can just clean up their starts, like this time they have a cleaner start this time, so they are definitely in contention to potentially get a victory or even an ace, just depending on how much momentum they're able to maintain on this jump here, with Tween and Kappa leading at the moment over Afi and Aurel. Aurel is sitting 0.4 behind, Afi 0.3 behind, and Kappa and Tween having a dominant performance right now, side by side. 0.3 lead over the duo at the moment, maintaining it into the identity. Now all they have to do is get clean identity, and they could get a counter ace, or a counter ace from the very first. And we have one member from BDS already responding. Afi is not going to be able to catch up, and that is going to be the counter ace for Sinners and puts them in the lead even.
Yeah, and another 0.4 being driven sub 0.5 is still nothing to scoff at, less than 3/10 away from the current record on the track. We're on to a 1-point lead from a 2-point deficit. We are also now on map point. It's an important one indeed, because that means we can continue building the momentum forward, and we do need a victory. We should not let the ace slip up for BDS, though. We should not allow them to counter at any point. As long as we keep maybe someone during second place and just get the victory to actually get onto 9-9, that could still be good. But ideally, we need first and third. This is, of course, the winning condition scenario that we need to actually meet. Let's see if we're able to make that happen here on round number 6. Now, moving on to the bubble. Kappa, Afi, Tween, 1, 2, 3. Aurel a little bit further behind, gets a bit too much airtime. Manages to keep it reined in, though, so doesn't let the rest of the field slip away and scamper off into the distance. Still remaining within 2/10 of Kappa, currently leading and trying to keep tabs with his teammate Afi, who's going toe-to-toe with Tween at the moment, just before the bobsleigh, trying to snatch second place away from Marek's hands. Marek going very high, trying to control the exit from the bobsleigh. Afi and Tween got it very clean, but Kappa was looking a little bit slow compared to Afi, so he might be in a bit of a danger. If Afi does go full send, he might very well pull off the overtake, although he does go a little bit wide again, just like he did a couple of rounds ago, allowing Tween to get back within his clutches for second position. Moving on to the identity, Kappa going very, very high compared to Afi, trying to go for a much tauter line, going very low at the first jump, the first vert plant, second vert plant. Kappa still leading, Afi in second, Tween in third. The positions will stay as is, unless... Oh, I thought it was going to be I thought from my perspective that Afi was going to be able to rein him in, but 1/10 was enough, and it will be a 10-8. We continue undefeated, 3-0 in the series, as we're going to be moving on to our next map, which could be the last map of the series. We've never been in this position before with a 3-map lead, I think, if I recall correctly.
Nope, never. Not once.
We've never been in this position in the history of the duo era of the Trackmania Grand League, and we're moving on to Grip. Now, this is a BDS pick, remember, so if I take a look at the stats, BDS, yeah, they did get the pick here, but it's a little bit of an oddball one for them because they're not feeling that great. 25% win rate. They've only won it once out of 4 times that they played. In terms of averages, they're looking a tiny bit better compared to Sinners, but I feel like we could still pull something together. In terms of average finishing position, 2.31 for Afi, 2.79 for Aurel, Kappa on a 2.50, Tween on a 2.66, so a little bit less of discrepancy, a much better like average finish delta for Kappa and Tween, so we need to take advantage of that as we're already getting started with our first round.
Yeah, it started with the first round here on Grip of all maps, which has been a very good map for Sinners. This is the pick that they went for on their 4th pick, and let's see if it benefits them in the long run. And I mean, they performed really well. I mean, especially Tween has an insane pace here, had a really insane pace against G1. Kappa getting really crazy there, is able to even take the lead because of that moment there. But yeah, Tween and Kappa having really strong sections here, especially when it comes into this dirt section. They just have more speed than every other team I've seen thus far in terms of pace here. And so now let's see if they're able to maintain this.
Tween barely grazing the wall.
Yeah, Tween's going to make a small minor mistake, but he may be able to still beat out Arl here as we get to the final grip section here. It's going to be Arl just inching ever so slightly ahead, and Tween, he makes a big mistake there. Is still going to finish ahead of Afi, though. Afi made a huge mistake. Not sure what happened there, but it's going to be a victory at least for Sinners, putting us up 2-1.
I mean, still, like Tween's touch of the pole, this is not an uncommon sight here on grip. If you get a tiny bit too low on the exit, try to maybe go a little bit tighter of a turn to go for a much straighter path to the finish line. It ends up with you having the left rear, or right rear rather, making contact with that pole, thus sending you into not quite a spin, but having a bit of a tighter radius, but also a lot less speed from the exit of the corner, thus enabling the rest of the field to overtake you if it is a bit of a close call. Moving through round 2, number 1, into sector number 1. Afi, Tween, Kappa, and Aurel in that order. Moving to the reactor boost bar, going inside. Tween getting too much airtime. He's going to be scrubbing off way too much speed, so unfortunately for Marek, he will be out of the running. But Kappa got so much more speed compared to Aurel just before the jump onto the ice and into the dirt, and he's going to be recouping a lot of that time deficit to get back in the clutches of Afi, and he's getting sandwiched in between the BDS members as Afi continues to lead. Kappa going for a bit of a tighter line midway through the corner. As we come onto the identity, it's still Afi leading by a thread, about 300ths of a second just up ahead of Martin there. Can he try to pull a maneuver on the Swiss driver, but also got Aurel getting back in the mix. It's going to be to the line here once again. Who's going to get it? Oh no! What in the mud? I can't even find the right words. What in the world was this round? 0.565, 0.566, Kappa 0.569. What an insane round. I mean, fair play to Afi and Aurel. They really gave it a really head-on go, and that's what enables them to move onto a 2-point lead now. What a round.
Yeah, that was a crazy round for BDS. It's unfortunate for a Sinners fan, but I mean, you can't be mad at that.
No, you can't be mad. That's actually amazing.
Yeah, that's insane how close that was, but another opportunity for Sinners to claw back. And this is not a situation they're not unfamiliar with, as they did come back from a deficit in the previous map, and they have an opportunity to do it again. And Kappa, he just has this area so clean. Right, the section before getting into this dirt section here, he just has that so clean and carries so much speed into these multiple flow sections, as I'll call them, which allows him to have an advantage. But right now, Aurel is going to lead into the identity here. Kappa sitting in second.
Oh, Aurel looking very slow.
Aurel makes a mistake, though. So now Kappa has the opportunity to get first again. Will he be able to maintain it? He's going to be able to maintain it, and Tween getting the victory. And that puts it only a 1-point deficit now.
Yeah, that was a bit of a payback from round number 1, I'm guessing, maybe for Tween. He saw Afi crashing into the pony, like, yeah, welcome to my world. I also pulled that off in round number 1, so there you go. Moving on to a more... We're still very much in it to win it, and BDS are still very much clinging on, so we must not actually discredit BDS at all. They're doing their best, and when they're actually on a fairly big time, although this time it will not be the case for the chances of Aurel, as he basically touched the side of the wall with his left front just before the jump. Tween touching the pole in the reactor boost part. Kappa was forced to respawn even further behind. So unfortunately for him, he will be down in P4. Tween down in, well, Tween down. Tween currently up into second position, although Afi has pulled a quite significant gap. So this is looking like a victory maybe for Team BDS. Aurel behind him in P3 is looking to be pretty nice and safe through there as well. As long as Tween keeps it clean, we still get a point on the board, even though it will mean that BDS will be getting onto map point number 1 once again for their particular series. Afi going a little bit lower. Way to go, and it's going to be clean for Afi, taking the victory individually and the victory in the round as well, with Aurel in third position. A 102.428, actually very solid time being driven by Afi. For context, the record is a 101.222, courtesy of mine for my TB, and map point for Team Blue BDS, who do need to pull off the ace. Now, they are able to pull that off. We've seen that on round 2. We must not actually jinx ourselves. But yeah, Sinners do need to rein that gap back in quickly. Unfortunately for Kappa, a bit of a touch. Not quite. I think he can still catch that back up in the second half.
It's not what we want for round 5, especially at the position that we're sitting in right now. for the side of Sinners. But I mean, to be fair, it could be pressure that Sinners is feeling, as they've never been in this situation before, in a 3-0 situation over BDS with the potential shutout of a 4-0. But regardless, they are able to maintain at least some distance within the rest of the pack. Kappa sitting right behind Afi. Tween a little bit.
Oh, Kappa getting the bounce.
That's airlines right there for Kappa.
Oh, wait, Aurel is also out.
Yeah, Aurel and Afi. Afi is right behind Tween. Tween at the lead. Aurel is out, but Kappa makes even a further mistake. So Tween has to be able to get first place here to at least get the tie. Is going to be able to do so and prevent disaster from happening.
Whew, that was a close call, wasn't it? So, I mean, BDS continued to progress towards getting the map on their hands. So, but still, Tween actually pulling the Tween being a lifesaver. You're indeed right, Pro. Because yeah, that was a hell of a close call if I've ever seen one. 8-6 as we're moving on to round number 6 now. Sinners still in with a shot of actually making it through. Oh, we saw someone very slow. Afi's been forced to respawn. He's been very slow just before the ring checkpoint. So this could be a prime opportunity, although we must not throw it in the bin right away now.
Yeah, Tween and Kappa really could benefit from an ace here and take the lead, which would put them in an advantageous position into the next round, of course. But Tween and Kappa have a mountain to climb against Aurel, as Aurel has been doing really well so far in this map. And Tween now in the lead has been doing really well himself, managing to get multiple first place contentions for the last couple rounds here. Aurel, though, sitting cleanly in second at the moment. Kappa really has to make up some time here in order to prevent Aurel from getting second place, but it's not looking like it at the moment. Tween getting it cleanly somewhat on the first, but Aurel sneaking in. Is it going to be able to overtake, though? Is going to be the question here. It's going to be close. It's not going to be close enough. Tween is going to be able to maintain his first place. It's going to be a victory for Sinners, but BDS only 1 point away.
Back down to a single point we go. We could force this issue into overtime as early as game 4 here. We know matches have been tense, but it could get even more tense than we've seen in the previous iterations of Sinners wins. We could definitely be onto something here as we're moving on to round number 7 here on Grip. Currently looking through everybody, managing getting the ring checkpoint this time around, so no respawns costing billions of seconds at a time as we're moving on to the transfer. End of the first sector will be Tween. Kappa leading in first and second, Aurel and Afi in third and fourth, just a 10th behind, and starting to separate actually a little bit the two groups, although Tween was a little bit too low and was on a head-on collision course with the wall, so it looks as though it might very well be the end of that map, unless there is a very significant catastrophe happening on the side of BDS, although I do not hope so. Of course, we are trying to win it fair and square here as Kappa continues to lead, at the very least upholding the individual honor of Sinners so far in this round. But Aurel and Afi just needs to get themselves home in second and third position, and it looks as though it will be heading that way. Aurel not really in a position to attack Kappa at any point throughout this map. I'm kind of interested to see the time. I was interested to see the time. Unfortunately, Kappa, yeah, this was kind of like the opposite of what we've seen with Tween. With well, Tween actually hit the pole on the outside. This time he hit the pole on the inside and actually hit it with the contact patch of the left front tire, thus basically sending him over the edge. So yeah, I mean, fair play to BDS. It is going to be a 12-8 win for them, allowing themselves to take that first map of the series just to get off the ground. As we're moving back onto a map pick from us, this is our last map pick that we need to take advantage of. It is going to be Off-Road.
Off-Road, a heavy grass and dirt map with a couple tech sections in between, but overall it's about flow. It's about minimizing your speed loss in your turns and having finer lines, and Sinners has proven to be at least relatively well and competitive on this map compared to other teams. Was very close in winning this against G1, but was not able to make it at the end, as G1 just had a super clean run in the final round of that map. And so now let's see if they have their redemption going into this first round.
It is going to be a bit of a close call, though, because I had a look at the average finishing positions. 2.54 for Afi, 2.85 for Aurel, 2.30 for Kappa, 2.55 for Tween. So maybe a tiny bit of advantage in terms of both average finish position overall and also in terms of average finishing position delta, a bit more consistency on the side of Sinners, but it could still be a bit of a coin toss on this one as we're moving through round number 1 already. Going a little bit all over the shots. Afi going very slow through the exit of the dirt part, so it will mean Kappa and Tween leading at the end of the first sector. Tween leading his teammate Kappa by about a 10th, and then a further 10th down we find Aurel as we move through the platform section, moving onto the bridges. Then the jump into the quarter pipe, then the triangle line here navigated nice and clean. Moving on to the ice slide right there. Very important to keep the grip at any point here. Aurel going a little bit high on the exit. Much more speed compared to Kappa, so Martin is going to have to do battle with Aurelien for second position, but it's going to be Aurel having the advantage right now. And actually, Afi also creeping back in. Now, Aurel versus Kappa still for second position. Afi making it a three-way fight for second place. Meanwhile, Tween has just a 2/10 buffer to manage Aurel behind him. Kappa still in third, and he will be staying in third. It will be at the very least a victory for Sinners, with a 0.4 being driven right out of the gate. So it is very much a fast time. For context, the record is a 59.153, which still stands, courtesy of Mime.
Yeah, Sinners having a really good performance there in that first round would be great for them to repeat that each time. They really don't have to do much if that's going to be the consistent times from everybody. That would be perfect for Sinners to just be able to continue those performances that they have. And Tween, I have to give him congratulations on so many levels of him stepping up so far in the second stage, as he was seen as kind of the weak link of the Sinners duo in stage 1. And this stage, he has proven himself to be such a massive carry for this duo, especially when Kappa fails to have his shining moments. And so it's great to see this duo finally have some balance with this second stage so far. And now we see Kappa having his moment to shine as he is making the massive lead. Tween fighting off both members of BDS, but going too tight on the inside is going to bonk out there, unfortunately. So Kappa has to be able to maintain his lead over the two. Has a good, comfortable lead at the moment, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, and that's going to be really close. Okay, all right. Martin, man, listen, my guy. This is not okay, all right?
Do any of you have had a few heart flutters? Because I sure did. That was a very close encounter with the tree from the right rear of Kappa's car. But yeah, we do have a draw at the very least, so we continue to lead by 1 point. Martin, yeah, trying to go for a little bit, not Martin, Marek, trying to go for a little bit of a tighter line. Unfortunately, went a little bit too early towards the apex, so that's why he ended up hitting the wall with the right, with the left front. I keep confusing left and right every time. It's it's a bit of a weird problem for me. I just have inverted steering all the time, so this is pretty much a real life problem. Oh, Kappa trying to go for the side jump, trying to make contact with the right rear. Won't be working out so far, but this time BDS not letting any kind of gap build up whatsoever through the first sector. Just a 10 separating first from last. So Aurel and Afi still in with a chance to potentially strike at any potential mistake from Kappa between, but so far they've been very few and far between on this map. Aurel with a bit of back tap, it's going to be compromising his line for the ice slide, costing him a ton of time through said ice slide, and Afi going very slow as well. So all-rounder, the middle sector has been absolutely disastrous for BDS, which puts us in a prime position to actually take the ace and bridge the gap of 4 points at the end of this round, and Aurel's going to facilitate that even more with a bit of a pinball machine action through the first part of the identity. Kappa once again avoiding the contact with the trees, but only just, and that will be a 6-2 scoreline and a 4-point lead for Sinners. Very, very close to map point number 4 and match point number 4 for them this season.
Yeah, a little bit of breathing room, but no reason to relax any at all. It's about finishing it and finishing it cleanly, and that's what Sinners needs to be able to do here. But they have made it somewhat easier for themselves by getting that ace, thanks to the double mistakes from the side of Team BDS from Afi and Aurel. But now Kappa, he's had some really good starting lines here on this map so far, as he was able to get the lead for the moment here. But Aurel and Afi trying to make up for the mistake they made in the last round and wanting to make up those points that they lost, because they still believe they have the chance to get it into the playoffs. But Sinners, with the 3-1 lead right now in the series, is wanting to end it right here and right now. And Kappa with the nice lead so far, a 0.1 lead. It's still very close amongst the entire pack. Tween and Afi now battling side by side. It's going to be really close, but Afi's going a little too wide. He's going to be the first mistake to happen there. Aurel now is going to try to sneak in. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not. It's going to be ace, and that is going to be the 9-2 score, putting us at map point, match point for the playoffs.
Oh my goodness. Well, look, kudos to Afi and Aurel for keeping it interesting all the way through the identity, especially Aurel picking up instantly where Afi left off and giving us a real good scare towards the end of that round right there. But indeed, 9-2. We've got a 7-point lead against Afi and Aurel. Ladies and gentlemen, spam the Sinners emote right now. It is your time to send your energy, because all we need is a second place. That's all we need, a second individual place. And we do have that spot for the playoffs booked and actually actually going for our way. Right now, Tween, Aurel, Afi, 1, 2, 3. Kappa just behind him, P4 swerving a little bit all over the shot. Tween going for the side jump with an early ground contact that he's going to be working out for him so far. Just a 1/10.5 between first and last as we see Tween continuing to try and build a gap around everyone else around him. Aurel, Alfie, and Kappa getting in close proximity of each other, battling for second position. Currently, Tween holding a really steadfast lead, moving through the triangle line. The positions stay the same, nobody giving themselves an inch. As we move through the ice slide, Aurel going very high, trying to recoup with a bit more of a beeline through the booster. Doesn't really work that well, allowing Kappa to move up into second place. Tween and Kappa, hand in hand, tandeming this together. Afi and Aurel in third and fourth are going to try to make this a little bit more interesting, trying to catch up to Tween and Kappa, but it's too far gone, unfortunately for them. And for us, ladies and gentlemen, 4th consecutive win in the season, and after so much trouble, so much bullshit that they went through, we book a spot in the playoffs. Proper vindication. Martin, Krompolch, and Marek Paka back in Grand League playoffs. GG.